All right, let's call this meeting to order. Roll, please.
Showalter.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Redmond. Thompson.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening, everybody. We have no public hearings. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment tonight? No public comment. Okay, well, let's move on to consent agenda. We have A, the 11/7/22 commission meeting minutes, and B, the appropriation ordinances 2022-22, 2022-22A, and 2022-P22. Anybody have any questions or comments on any of those? Not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Showalter,
I'll second.
a second by Commissioner Howard. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Redmond. Showalter.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions, starting with A, Resolution 1603, regarding unfit structure at 106 North Caldwell. Jeff, good evening.
I brought this to your attention back in August, and then we brought it again to you back in September for a resolution to give us permission to go on and board it up and secure it, make it a little safer, and gave a few people make some comments and wanting to purchase it. Nobody's done anything with it since. The property nobody's cleaned it up, fixed it up, or done anything. So I'm just asking for a resolution to go ahead and set it for a public hearing. Come be January 3rd.
January 3rd, yep. Okay,
So we can have the authority to take down the structure if need
Yep.
be.
anybody have any questions or comments regarding the resolution?
I don't have any questions. I would make a motion that we approve Resolution 1603, set that for public hearing on January 3rd.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Showalter,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Myers. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Redmond. Thompson.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, we'll move on to B, Resolution 1607, regarding authorization of redemption and payment of the IRB Series 2022 for the 24/7 travel store project. I almost tripped all over that, didn't I?
The city commission authorized taxable industrial revenue bonds for the 24/7 travel store project. It actually started in 2019, and they authorized the information of it, or authorized the project. And then earlier this year, they authorized the bonds themselves because the construction project was complete. And the bonds were purchased by the company. It's really we're just a mechanism that it occurs, and it allows some incentive for the project to actually occur. And now that the project's complete and it's been a set amount of time that is sufficient, the bond attorney has been contacted by the company, and they'd like to redeem the bonds and basically pay off the bonds that they're paying themselves regarding it. And that's what all the documents in your packet is about. It authorizes the procedure to go ahead and redeem those bonds and pay them off. So it does not cost the city in order to do this. We're just the authorizing entity that allows it to happen.
Conduit.
The
as it
conduit.
were. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
appreciate the work they did out there. That all looks good out there, and I think it's economic. It's good economic, good economics out there, I guess. So.
Yeah.
Not the wording I was looking for, but you know what I mean.
We get the idea.
Yeah, we get the idea.
What, people may have questions, why do you do this type of thing or allow this to happen? And the company does it in order, the primary reason it's in the state statutes in order to allow this type of project to occur is there's then a sales tax exemption on all the construction materials that are done for the job. And on a $5-6 million project, obviously that can be a significant amount of sales tax. But the benefit is that the property then becomes greater in value. Obviously, you have a greater in value than what you had in the beginning, and I called the assessor's office earlier. And it was about, in 2019, when the project was started, it was about a $600,000 property. It's now valued at over $2.4 million. So it's 4 times the value of the project. So that's the primary reason that cities or counties will authorize these type of projects to occur. So,
Thank you for that further explanation. Well, I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 1607.
I'll second that motion.
Have a second by Commissioner Howard. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Redmond, Howard,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to formal actions, starting with A demolition bid award. Jeff is going to come back up, I believe.
Bringing this back to you, 1514 Caldwell. We did have a public hearing. Nobody showed for it. Nobody showed interest. And then we did open it up for bids back in October. We got the bids in, and then we set it the 17th, the last meeting there, for 30 days to give the owner the chance to do it themselves and so forth. I sent 2 letters, certified letters. One got returned. One they must have accepted. We never did get it back yet. So nothing's been done to the property. Went through it today again and walked around. Anyway, we received 2 bids. I got those in your packets. One from Goodies, Mike Yager. His bid came in at $9,000. Mr. Rippey, Brian Rippey with BK and Pumping, came in at $12,000. Mr. Rippey can get it done. He anticipated one, January 15th. I did get a hold of Mr. Yager today, and his anticipation date is the 6th of January. So,
Okay.
I guess we're asking for, recommendation to accept the lower bid of Mr. Yager with Goodies.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve
So moved.
one or the other. Which one would you?
I'd make a motion that we approve the bid for Goodies.
Okay, for the amount of $9,000.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion by Commissioner Showalter,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Myers. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Redmond, Showalter,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, next we have B, which is a contract for engineering services with EBH to acquire, signed as SRE, is snow removal equipment, carry vehicle, and snow blade.
it is, and I think Darren is actually able to connect this time, so.
Yeah, I hope this time is a little bit better connection than last time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
we can see you and hear you. Can you see and hear us?
Awesome. Yes. Great.
Good.
So the contract we have in front of me tonight is, like you just mentioned, Bear, was is for the snow removal equipment. This is the FAA grant. I want to start off by saying you wouldn't necessarily have to have us involved with this one. This is just a way we're proposing this to save Kent and Mary any extra headaches. And through the acquisition process, there's just a lot of extra time and manpower that has to go in to make sure you're meeting all the federal requirements. So that's where I want to start by saying that. Then once again, this part of the grant would also be the 90% eligible, just like the actual acquisition of the equipment itself. So what we would do if you would award this contract to us this evening is we get started in the process to get the bid specifications, which are going to include all the American, Buy American type things. That's going to be the most tricky one right now with equipment. And we start getting that put together, and the goal right now would be to have this equipment bid out by March. So sometime in the early spring, we'd have a bid opening for you guys to take a look at. We are hearing, as you know, most of you around there know, with all the ag equipment, it could be 9, 12, 18 months before we could actually take delivery, but at least we'd have it bid and secured in the production line somewhere.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I guess my question is, I know how much time and effort do you think it's going to take to go through all of this? I say that because it does seem to be a considerable amount of money just to have you guys go out and do the process of acquiring the equipment.
And I knew that question was going to come up. So I basically, what I did is I actually contacted on this one. I contacted, I can't remember the gentleman's first name. His last name is Ravey, H-R-A-V-E, at the Rooks County Airport. He is their economic development director as well as their airport manager for Rooks County. And he just went through this process about 2 or 3 years ago. So I said, okay, because he did it all himself. He did not hire a consultant on his end. And if anybody wants to call him, you're more than welcome to, because he will tell you he should have, just because of the extra time that he had to deal with. He said from the time it was all said and done, all the way through all the paperwork he had to go through, getting the bids and all the FAA stuff, he said he had, 300 plus man hours and all the other time it took away from him, of his other duties to really take care of this. So now I don't think we just never know exactly how many man hours are going to be put into these things, because sometimes little glitches come up that are going to cause more. So if you wanted to, I'm not saying we could both go this route. We could change this to an hourly contract, and just with an hourly of not to exceed that dollar amount. We just have that dollar amount in there as that max in to make sure that it's covered, because we never know what hiccups are going to get run into on an FAA project. The Pappies out at the airport are a prime example.
Okay, and if it were to change to an hourly contract, what hourly rate would we be looking at?
In an FAA contract, if you go an hourly rate, it's set up just like a KDOT contract, to where our billing sheets that you would receive, they show which one of our employees works on that project for that hour or multitude of hours. It shows their wage, and then we have an audited overhead factor that is audited, approved by KDOT, and the FAA uses that same one for us. That then gets applied, and then there's a negotiated profit built on top of that. And usually that profit is somewhere in that 10 to 15%. So that it's not, if you ever see some of our other contracts with you guys, that we've signed here in the last couple of years, we have a standard rate table. And like, for example, I think right now, either Andrew or we're set at like $135 an hour is roughly our rate. Well, when you look back at an FAA job, it's roughly in that same magnitude, only it's derived differently because they make it an actual cost plus the audited overhead. So it does look a little funky, and it gets into some odd dollars and cents, but that's the general level. So it depends on exactly which employee is working on it for that hour or 2 or 3 or 300 as to what that actual cost would be.
Is this, so I was talking with Kent before the meeting, and it did show me that, you know, the FAA would like to have an agreement, an engineering agreement by the end of the month. You know, the end of the month is coming up real fast.
Right.
Is that
And
something that,
and by the way, they sent that letter out on the 15th asking
Yeah.
for it by the end of the month when they've been setting on all this stuff for, 6-8 weeks already. So
if that's something that we were to like
We can make
table
that
and take the
change
time
right
to
now.
think about till the next meeting?
no, if you wanted to make that change, then approve it that way. Because the other thing that you need to include in this approval you would make tonight is the wording contingent upon FAA review and approval. Because what the FAA has not gotten to us yet is there's a whole packet of anywhere from 5 to 15 sheets that are federal clauses. They send us those federal clauses. I mean, there's a big book of about 30 pages that we can go through and pick out the clauses we think are appropriate. But 9 times out of 10, they come back and say, no, you needed to include this one. Oh, you don't need to include this one. And their program manager, in this case, Dan Wilson, makes that determination what needs to be included. Well, he has not sent us those yet, even though we've requested them. So when he does send them, what we've always done in the past, and the FAA has approved this, and past commissions have operated this way, is since it's not changing the scope or the dollar amount of our contract, when the FAA sends us those documents, they're included because you've said upon their review and approval, and that's part of their review and approval. So that still has to come in and get added also. We sent a copy of the full-blown one that we used on the Runway 523 project. We know that this being an equipment project that's less, some of those are going to get deleted, but that's kind of like the maximum number of federal clauses that could be in there. So he said, okay, we'll include that one or whatever he sends as his set. So that being said, that's going to change here too. I can send, if you vote to change it to the hourly piece, I'll change that one paragraph, which is paragraph 2.3.1 would actually change the language in that to say the actual cost not to exceed. And it'll have that number. We can keep that 30,000 number as not to exceed number and then just go to an hourly. I can change that on another copy I send to Mary here in the next 5 to 10 minutes, if that's what you guys want to do, and it wouldn't hold up the process.
Okay. What do you guys think?
I like the hourly rate version better.
Okay.
Myself.
This, Mary, whatever you get that. So this, this money would come out of airport funds, correct? And airport
But
board,
It's a 90-10.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and remembering, that right now, if we hit the maximums on these two, your costs are gonna be $3,000 and $250
oh, that's even,
off the two areas here.
okay. I was sorry, I was thinking that was just gonna be for the equipment itself, not,
No. On an FAA grant,
You get
everything involved with the project is eligible. Well, potentially. There's some kickers there, but I mean, for this particular project, everything would be eligible. On the Runway 523 project, everything's eligible.
well, that puts me way more at ease.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Well, and I once again, I never want to overcharge anybody. Okay, don't get me wrong. But yeah, kind of looking at, let's just say your cost is a maximum of $3,000. The worst case scenario is time of $3,000 to you locally. Because yes, it's all our money through the taxpayer system, but it's a grant that's a user to lose it to.
Is that a
And
hard
if you guys
deadline
don't-
from the FAA as far as November 30th?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is that a hard deadline from the FAA as far as the engineering contract by November 30th? I know you were talking to me about that. I don't
You
know.
know, pick your determinations of terminology with the FAA.
Right.
Are they going to come take your grant away, the potential for it, if you don't have it in by November 30th? No. Their hard deadline is actually, I believe, May 1st. I got to look that one up for sure. And that's when the bids are due, copies of the approved bids from you guys, as well as our contract. Oh, that's when we actually turn in the actual grant application. That's a hard deadline that they have way out there at the end. These ones up front, if we don't hit them, it makes it tougher because of all the review stuff we have to go through with them to hit that one out in April or May.
Any other thoughts?
So what we're approving, or what you're asking for approval for tonight is a contract for you to find a snow removal equipment in the amount of about $500,000. Is that right?
Right. That's that. What we did, just so you know, Jason, how we kind of derived that number. We went out to some local vendors and said, hey, here's kind of what we would be looking for: size, horsepower, attachments, as well as talk to Rooks County, and got their number from a couple of years ago to use as the size of equipment. Now ours will be just a little bit bigger than theirs because we have a little bit bigger facilities than theirs, but roughly the same thing. So that number is pretty accurate to what we think we're going to see on actual bids from these equipment manufacturers, just because we did those two things. We talked to somebody that already got it and said, okay, here's the size, equipment, what we're going to need. Kind of what are you guys seeing those type of things out there right now?
Okay.
What we don't know is if those same manufacturers are going to be able to meet all the new Buy Americans requirements. That's going to be tricky for some of these manufacturers.
So if we were to get that grant, then that amount, is that under the 90-10 split as well? Or is that completely covered?
Yes. No, it's 90-10. Everything involved with this project is 90-10.
Okay. So a lay person that would come and ask me off the street and say, why do we need snow removal equipment? Don't you already have snow removal equipment? Why do you need another $500,000 in equipment? What would you tell them?
Well, okay, so this particular piece of equipment will have both a blade and a kick broom. So what we would use, the kick broom would be attached to it the majority of the time. That kick broom can be used all year long, and it's actually been needed out at the airport on multiple occasions when we'll get, sand, rock, gravel, those type of things get on the runway or on the parking aprons. With the amount of jet traffic we've increased, it's really dangerous to jet traffic to have any of that, debris anywhere on the runways or the apron. So that the kick broom can be used either by city staff or by the FBO to keep all of that clear on a year-round basis, as well as in the lighter snows, say an inch or less, maybe 2 inches if it's dry, that kick broom would take care of it. The blade would only be for the bigger, heavier snows. So what it does is it provides a piece of equipment out at the airport that is dedicated for the airport. The city won't be able to take that, anywhere else. So it's just for out there. But it also won't take away from doing the same type of snow removal at the same time somewhere else in the city. So right now, I know the airport's fairly high on your emergency list. So they work their way out to the airport, they clear the airport. Well, now at the same time, pending staff availability, of course, one person can be out at the airport cleaning the airport, and you can still be using the other piece of equipment you took out there a year ago out there to be working somewhere else in town.
Okay.
And roughly, let's just say this whole package comes in, I can't remember what, I apologize for not having that number in front of me. Let's just say it's 600,000, city cost is 60.
So I guess my question then, Kent, is if we do get this grant, where will that money come from?
There's a certain amount within that we received and that we dedicate for airport funds, and that's where it comes from.
Is there still, how much is sitting in there roughly? Couple hundred?
380,000.
Three.
Darren, can you explain the grant? Because I think with what the question Jason's asking is, it's like a competitive grant program instead of it's already been programmed through the FAA, correct?
Yeah, you might need to come up to the microphone to.
Step on up to the mic.
Yeah.
Hey, I think by the way Jason's asking questions, can you explain a little bit about, he keeps talking about getting the grant if we're gonna get the grant. The FAA has already basically obligated these funds. That's just, you still
Right.
have to turn in the application to get the funds.
Okay.
Right. In this particular case, right now you have two pots of money. You have what's called discretionary funding, and as well as your entitlement funding. Actually, I'm sorry, you have three types right now. You also have the DIL money. Discretionary funding is not going to happen for this type of project. Discretionary funding is kind of the FAA's pot that they have floating around up there. That's what we use to cover the difference on the 523. The locally there, you get 150,000 from the FAA every year in entitlement funds. Right now, for about this 5-year period, you're also getting 160,000 a year in BIL funding. We have to use that up within 4 years. So that's kind of a pot building in the background. So like for this particular year we're in right now, you actually have 310,000 of this 600 is in your pot. Well, we still have some pot we gained from last year because the 523 actually came from 2 years ago. So we slowly built the pot back up. That money is yours. It can't be touched by anybody else, but if you get to the end of the 4 years and haven't used it, they come ask airports to give it away to another airport in the state of Kansas. Because once that money disappears out of your pot and nobody else uses it, it goes back into the big government black hole in DC to be used by no one other than whatever. I mean, it doesn't go to the FAA. It doesn't go to the Department of Transportation. It just disappears.
Okay.
So,
The other part of this, Darren, also is that this is one part of the project as far as the snow removal equipment itself. And then they wanted to split it into two different deals to have the building be in a following year.
so basically next year we would build the building to house this. We think in the interim, we're going to be able to store it out there in another hangar. We just don't want to tie up other hangar space for years to come. So what we'll do is build another small metal building right beside the ARF, the fire truck building, where we moved it to, and it would be just for this snow removal equipment. That way, it's easy to change the blade to the broom and vice versa, and able to, hey, when we need it, it's available to go out there, open the door, and go.
Answer your questions, good?
Answer my questions.
Okay. Good. Any other questions? So what's everybody's thought regarding the verbiage of the contract? Apparently it reads to pay the engineer a fixed lump sum of $30,000, and then there's additional services of $2,500. Do we like that verbiage, or would you prefer to change it in the way we were discussing before, to where to read the actual cost not to exceed $30,000?
What happens when if he exceeds it?
If we exceeded anything that goes over that amount in our contract, it's on us. We can't, without a contract amendment, which we'd have to come back and ask for you guys for, we can't bill you over the 30,000 if we set that as the max.
So what do you guys think? I like the actual cost up to, in this particular case, I think.
Doing the hourly?
Yes.
Yes. Agreed.
If you would like, I can read you a paragraph, which Mary, I will type and send to you here in a minute, as well as a new contract of that rather verbiage. And this actually comes from the contract you guys signed with us on the 523, because that's how the construction engineering was completed on that project. And it reads, the owner agrees to pay the engineer actual cost plus a net fee for profit of, and then there's a blank, which we fill in, but we make that 10% of the not to exceed. So in this case, it'd be net fee for profit of $3,000. The actual cost shall be incurred in conformity with the cost principles established in the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration Advisory Circular number 150/5100-14C Part 4.-4, or before it read 4-5. The maximum total compensation for section, whatever section number is, engineering design, or shall not exceed $30,000 except by supplementary contract by the parties hereto with prior approval by the FAA. That is the standard paragraph that goes in for an hourly not to exceed section.
I like that.
That sound good to everybody?
Yes.
Sounds good to me.
In that case, I would make a motion to approve the contract with the amended paragraph as read by Darren, contingent on FAA review and approval.
I'll second that.
I have a second by Commissioner Myers. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Brown, Thompson.
Yes. All right. Great. Thank you, Darren.
Not a problem, Mary. That'll be coming your way in just a couple minutes.
Okay.
Thanks, Darren.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, well, let's move on to C, the 2023 library contract. Kent, if you want to speak to that.
This is the annual contract that we have with the Board of County Commissioners of Sherman County, as well as the Library Board for funding of the library. So it sets up the amount of funding that the Board of County Commissioners contributes to the library, and then it's a component of the city's budget, as you saw during the budget process in the summer. And we do this on an annual basis. So I don't think there's been any changes from the prior year. And the city clerk is saying no. Non-verbally, but she's still saying no.
All right. Anybody have any questions on this one?
Motion to approve the 2023 library contract.
I have a motion by Commissioner Showalter,
I'll second that.
a second by Commissioner Howard. Any other discussion? Roll, please.
Showalter,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Brown, Thompson.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to discussion items. We have the sales tax bond issue. Kent.
The ballot issue was a very close vote. It was so close, it came down to provisional ballots. It actually was, the original count without the provisional ballots was a few votes short of the ballot issue passing, and then with the provisional ballots, it did pass by 5 votes. So it is passed at this point, or it was declared as those are the final vote totals. So the question I have for the commission, and it is how would you like to proceed as far as the setting up the project as we go. In the sales tax ballot issue itself, it said that we were going to be looking at doing the 8th Street project. Now, the sales tax will not start until July of next year. So we will not, obviously, we won't receive any revenues until late in 23, probably, early 24 before we start seeing revenues come in for it. We could probably start having discussions with and I just wanted to make sure with the commission that that's what the route you'd like to go. Could have start discussions, would you like to do the project as a pay-as-you-go type deal, or would you like to see what we could do if we would finance the project and do the entire project as one project? Basically from the intersection of Cattle Trail with 8th Street to Caldwell. And depending whether we do just a little, if the edges of that, depending on how it intersects with Caldwell on 8th Street at that point, if it continues past the intersection at all. But obviously with costs, it's a little bit uncertain, obviously, as much as construction costs are increasing. But that doesn't mean that construction costs will not increase even more over the life of the 20-year bond. But could start having discussions with our financial counsel, our bond attorney counsel, just like we were saying earlier, how that could occur, what we would need, what steps we would need to take in order to create that type of financing and have that for your consideration, or other steps that you'd like to take regarding the project as the setup for it. Since it was interesting, we had the vote, and I think the day after I was asked by someone, well, when are you going to start the project? And I was like, well, we haven't even planned for it yet because we weren't sure the vote was going to pass. So that would have been a little bit misuse of funds to go ahead and start planning the project before it was authorized. But do you have any direction for staff at this time?
I think the whole project, the pay-as-you-go could be, yeah, it could save you money, but I think as we know, everything keeps going up and up and up, and it could cost us way more.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm at this point in the economic climate, for sure, more interested in trying to bond everything as one large project. If we could move forward instead of trying to do it piece by piece as the revenues come in. I feel it just feels like at this point in time for sure that it would be more fiscally responsible to do it that way. Of course, like I said, you never know what, for all we know, I mean, in 3 years, prices may come down on everything and we may end up overpaying in the long run. But just the way things look now, I wouldn't take that bet. But. So I think my thoughts would be to look into what our options are as bonding, and then at the same time or thereafter, we would need to kind of discuss amongst ourselves exactly what we want this project to look like. If we want to look doing it all concrete or same kind of surface that we have now, or do we want to put sidewalks in? Do we want to do, while we got the street tore up, do we want to get in there and get sewer lines and water lines and take care of other things? So there's a lot of things that will also be coming up with the discussion with the project we need to keep in mind too.
Part of the discussion with it will also be with the engineering contract that would eventually get involved with it, obviously. And also another reason, a lot of times you want to do a larger project, so the pain as far as the detours and the driving through the particular construction just occurs once. It doesn't occur over and over and over again. That tends to exacerbate people's patience with the project. So, of course, there will be more than likely set up the project so even if it is one project, it'll be done in stages. But if it can be done all during one construction season, that's usually the best way to go. The other thing that would happen with any financing, often you authorize temporary construction financing first. And then after, and that's usually for 2 years. It can be for up to 4 years, but it's usually for 2 years. And then at the end of the 2 years, then you go out for the long-term financing, and that pays off your temporary construction financing that occurs. Because then you have the actual construction costs, and you only borrow the exact amount you need. Whereas with the temporary construction financing, you oftentimes make it more than what you need. Sometimes you end up getting to that amount, but a lot of times you end up a little bit less. And then the longer term financing, then you have the exact amount. So that's often how that occurs.
All right. What do you guys think?
I think the financing, direction, and then bonding would be the way.
Do the project at once, or at least start investigating that.
Yes.
And get clarity about whether the timing of it, whether it can occur before the sales tax is actually started to be collected, which I think it can, but just to confirm that with the bond council. And we'll come back with some additional details and probably have a couple decisions before we get to that point too.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Ken. Any other discussion items? Okay, we'll move on to reports, starting with our city manager, Kent.
Included your memo. We also have the police monthly activity report. The police department is also, I guess I'll let the police chief announce the information that there was a promotion within the department with one of the officers, Officer Mater.
Come on up, chief.
So we did promote Zach Nader to corporal. We tried to get a supervisor when the last one left, and we couldn't get any applications for that. And that shift needs a supervisor. He's got the experience, he's got the knowledge. So eventually someone will have enough experience and knowledge to fill the sergeant position, but right now he's going to be the supervisor on his shift. So he was happy to take it. I was real hesitant because of the responsibilities with the dog. So we had a pretty long discussion, and he's up for the challenge, and I think he'll do well. We'll help him along the way. So if you see him, just congratulate him. He's excited. So that's it.
All right, great, thank you.
Thanks.
One other thing regarding the police department, and Chief, you're fine. You can sit down. Josh, actually, the IT worked on correcting the situation regarding our communication with the vehicles as far as the mobile data. Some people call them mobile data computers, some people call them mobile data terminals. But we had to correct the situation, and we're having to get an additional piece of equipment. It's called a MiFi for the vehicles that allow the communication to occur securely and more succinctly, and to have it operating much closer to 100% of the time. So I know there was some consternation that was occurring, but there's obviously an additional charge for the additional devices for each vehicle. And actually, probably when we first started doing this should have occurred, but We're taking that step now, and so if the billing is a little bit more for the police vehicles, that's the reason why that it occurs, so, for the communication. And it's still within our budget, so it still works that way. The cleanup went well regarding our street department helps the high school. The high school has a cleanup around town that occurred today. Last Thursday was a bit cold, so they canceled it and they moved it to today. And Canton, how many yards did get cleaned up?
A lot of yards. 95.
95 yards, so that was quite a few trips to take it to the compost area at the dump, so. And we don't get charged for that, so, by the county. So they work with us as well, so I appreciate that. So it's a project that involves all sorts of different things. I also asked if Danny Krejcik, Park Superintendent, could provide us an update of several things that have been going on with the Parks Department. So,
Well, good evening, everyone. Parks Department is up to full staff again. I've got 2 employees. I've got one that's been there 3 months, and I've got one that's been there 3 weeks. It was a really busy summer for us between their mowing and weed eating and all their other projects. We had time to take on some other maintenance projects that needed some work. We built a new shade net for on top of the water park to keep the kids and the lifeguards from getting sunburnt. We repainted the pickleball courts, painted the exterior of Phillips bathrooms. We try and do a bathroom every year, try and update a bathroom to keep them maintained every year. We poured some cement around the basketball court over on the west side of town there. Painted the fountain at Chambers Park and installed a new water pump so we could get it going for Flatlanders. We had to put in a new water line over at Stever Park, at the skate park. When they built the new addition to the skate park, they poured the cement over the existing water sprinkler line, and it finally let go, so this time we went around the outside. And I had to put in some new water valves up in Rosewood Park. They're getting old enough, they're needing some maintenance. And we did all those projects between mowing every day, watering, weed eating, spraying, doing our daily duties. We did get our new aerator and tried it out this fall. Works really good. Got all of our fall fertilizing complete, our fall weed spraying complete, everything winterized, the ballparks, all the park sprinkler systems, bathrooms, and all the properties the city owns. And I was in Salina last week getting my hours to maintain my commercial pesticide applicator's license. I know you'd asked earlier on about the vandalism. This year looks like we had about 20 vandalism cases. So it figures about 3 or 4 a month, and they're random, different areas of the city. Last thing I want to talk about was the Phillips Park sprinkler system project. It's about 95% complete. That park's 112,000 square feet over there, so about 2.5 acres. And the water department really helped me out installing some new water meters. The street department, we had to tear one sidewalk out so I could get a water line underneath it. It was too wide to get my water line underneath there. The street department tore it out, poured a new sidewalk and made it ADA compliant. The electric department did all the trenching for me. They did over 3,600 feet of trenching over there so I could run the water lines. We did everything in-house, didn't hire anything out. We did salvage all the old sprinklers that were in there so I can use them at different locations. I saved what I could. The valve boxes, I reused those. And all I've got left to do over there, I've got to wire in all the valves and hang the timer on the building and program it. That park, the old park had 2 systems, and this new system has 2 stations. This new system has 10 stations and 76 sprinkler heads. So should have excellent coverage there. We did run a little short on some fittings, but I had some fittings left over from other sprinkler projects, and we just reuse those instead of having to purchase more stuff. Dustin's working on getting me some brighter lights for over at, some people have been asking about brighter lights for Phillips Park. So he's checking into some clear globes with some LED clear bulbs to lighten that up over there. So we're working on that project there. So been kind of a busy system with tackling this Phillips project, but we just about got her done. So,
Awesome.
so any questions, comments, concerns on anything? So,
Busy year.
Busy.
Yeah.
Also, towards the end, you cleared out a parking area or added some buildings on the west side of it as well.
Yeah, we, you probably noticed along Cattle Trail, we, Kent hauled in some millings. We have a lot of people that pulls off Cattle Trail, like, especially like around harvest time, they pull off that shoulder and grab their lunch and go over and eat in the park, in the shelters. So we thought, well, if they're gonna drive on it, we might as well turn it into an off-street parking. That'll be less we'll have to mow and water anyway.
Mhm.
So Kent and I are kind of in discussions on some water conservation things we can do to the sprinkler systems in the park. So we're going to work on that this winter too. So,
Great.
so
You're thrifty. The taxpayers appreciate it.
I treat it like it's my own.
There you go.
Thank you.
So,
This was a big project by the Parks Department to get done, so it's pretty good that they was able. It took obviously a few months to get it done, but
Yeah.
it took us about 50 days.
and the collaboration with other departments has been really good to see. So
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it without Dustin them trenching that for me. I mean, that'd be a lot of digging. And then, like I say, Neil put in, we had an old water meter in there, so we kicked it up to a new one so we'd have plenty of water. And then there's no way I could get that water line under that sidewalk. It was about 15 feet long. So Kenton come over and took out the sidewalk, and I laid a new line and we put new cement in. So anyway, we're headed towards the home stretch now. So, all right, if you ever have any concerns or anything, don't hesitate to holler.
Thanks, Danny.
I do. Thanks, Danny.
Don't holler, just ask.
one final thing, there was a mess up by staff that it was supposed to be a public hearing tonight regarding trailers. It did not get on the agenda, so we'll have to have you pass another resolution, reset the hearing for a date in the future. But it's regarding the trailers down on 16th in Colorado. So a little bit has changed, but not enough at this point. So we'll have to set the hearing again. So
Okay.
that is it, Mayor.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, thank you. Move on to city commissioner reports. We'll start down here on my right side with Commissioner Showalter.
Just had a Dustin question, actually. Dustin had a question from a community member about and I know this is nothing that you guys did, but those LED lights out on 24 that are turning purple. Is this a question you've gotten before, I take it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of it had to do with the February event.
Okay.
LED lights, with the 30 below temperatures. Wichita actually got hit a lot harder than we did. So, thought they were turning K-State color,
Are they?
but yeah. So, yeah, there's,
I
they'll
assume
have to
there's
be
nothing we
changed
can
out.
do about it, right?
No, they're
Okay.
damaged to the point where they'll be changed out. I do have some in stock, but it's just getting to that point to where, how long do we let them go? I mean, they're still providing light, but it's just different.
Yeah.
Just definitely catch your eye different. So.
I mean, I think it's kind of a pleasant hue as you're driving.
Right.
through.
K-State fan, I can't complain. Purple, I guess.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's, with the age of those lights, there's no warranty on them.
Sounds good. Answered my question.
So
Thank
if
you.
that's the only thing.
That's the
we're
only
good.
thing.
Yeah.
I did see the crews out putting up the Christmas decorations today. It's,
Yes.
they're all looking good, and I'm sure they'll be happy if there's no wind and none of them get damaged. So, thanks for your work on that.
Okay, Commissioner Myers?
Nothing to report?
Commissioner Howard?
Don't have anything. Everybody just have a great Thanksgiving and safe travels.
Okay, and for me, I just want to also with AJ say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Have a great long weekend this weekend. And on that note, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 5:56 p.m.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Howard,
Second.
second by Commissioner Showalter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.